Let's get to the middle class of the Big Ten, because we were going through Wisconsin and Rutgers, and
fresh off of losing
to
K-State in a scintillating bowl game, which according to you nobody could get up for.
I'm not saying they couldn't get up, but that's why I find it a little ironic, because the bowl game also meaningless, but they did get up for it. That's weird. Like maybe Michigan State can rally,
not reeling me
put
in.
on the jersey one more time for your teammates. Like Coach Ravel says, about how they feel.
I know what you're
not
trying
about the scoreboard. No, I'm not trying to do anything.
But I would be either your Moby Dick or the old man in the sea. You're not reeling me in.
They call me Ishmael?
You're not.
Anyway, you want to start with Rutgers or Wisconsin?
I want to start with Rutgers and Ethan Kaliakmanis.
Okay. It doesn't matter how long he stays in college. He's still only, okay. Like, he's not that good.
Okay.
Like, he can stay in college as long as he wants. Like, this isn't.
You're not riding with Kaliakmanis?
No. I don't think he's very good. I know he's diced Nebraska up before. I still don't think he's very good.
What about Ian Strong?
No.
He's a good player.
He's fine.
Get vertical.
Vertical? Like hops, like that grasshopper you're talking about?
Pretty good receiver.
No, he is, but you got to have better, like, Kaliakmanis going to get it to him?
And they bring back their top two receivers.
That's fine.
Okay.
Kaliakmanis is still kind of who he is.
All right.
I'm not, I'm not riding with that guy. I don't think he's very good. So you can have all the good receivers you want.
What about Dijonborn defensively?
So defensively, Rutgers is super interesting because I feel
they're good.
But maybe I'm mistaken here. They're replacing a lot of guys.
Well, so they were so hurt.
Right. So, I don't know. I know they brought in a ton of transfers on that side of the ball. So I don't know which of those transfers are going to play versus the guys coming back from injury are going to play. I know it's going to look a lot different than it did last year, regardless, one way or the other.
Okay.
So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if you're going all transfer D line with O'Neal and Blue and
you gave Indiana the benefit of the doubt.
I think I like Cignetti more than I like our guy Schiano, and I like Schiano.
Really?
Yeah. But maybe, honestly, so part of the reason with Indiana is I trust his ability to put together a functional offense with Mendoza more than I trust Rutgers' ability to put together a functional offense with Kaliakmanis. That's a lot of it. So, while the defense figures it out, I think Indiana's going to be able to score.
I won't.
And I don't really trust that with Rutgers.
I won't pick at that.
So I don't know. Part of it for me is I don't know what the defense looks like early for Rutgers, because are those guys coming back going to play? Are the transfers going to play? You could have an all transfer defensive line and half of your defensive backfield as well.
Yeah. So do you know why I picked Rutgers?
Why?
Because they play Iowa, they play Minnesota, they play Washington, and they play Illinois.
Mm-hmm. So they've got a lot of those teams that we're talking about.
100%, which is why I picked Rutgers.
So let's get
Wisconsin's even worse.
Oh, Wisconsin is.
That's why we have to talk about it.
So let's start with Rutgers and their schedule.
Okay, at Ohio Ohio at home.
I'm going to call that a win.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go give them 3-0 in the non-con.
So they beat Miami of Ohio. Roethlisberger ain't coming back. Norfolk State.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you got against HBCUs?
Nothing. I just think Rutgers probably going to beat them.
Okay.
Although that's where Vic's at, isn't it? Norfolk State.
You get Iowa. Yeah. At the house.
Iowa's going to beat them.
It's their Big Ten opener.
Iowa's going to beat them.
Okay.
I think I'm a little higher on Iowa than some.
Not than me, though.
No, but I think I haven't forgotten about them. I think they're very much in this mix with the Illinois, Nebraska, Indianas of the world.
Okay.
So
you're at Minnesota.
That's a real 50-50 for me. I think Iowa's better than Minnesota.
If you don't like I'm not going to tell you how to think.
I think Iowa's better than Minnesota, but here's the other thing that I do. Sequentially, I have to look at it to go, okay, do I think Rutgers is going to lose 4 games in a row? That's part of how I look at this, right?
You don't have to fast forward to 4 because you're going to start with just 2.
Right, but then I look at, okay, I could see them losing 2 in a row, but then they go at Washington the next week. I'm like, all right, they're going to lose 3 in a row. Then they got Oregon at home.
Do you remember what you said about Washington, though?
I think Washington's not as good as – that's a 50-50 game for Washington, I believe.
Yeah, but you said Washington would win that game.
I agree. So that's a loss already that I've got for Rutgers.
Are they on the road at Minnesota winning?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. So right now they're 3-3.
Yep. And they're about to be 3-4 because they're going to lose to Oregon too.
Okay. They're at Purdue.
I'm going to call that a win.
Okay. Well, you hate Purdue.
Yeah. I think they're bad.
Yeah. They go to Champaign.
That's a loss.
At home against Maryland.
I'm going to call that a win.
At Ohio State.
Loss.
At home versus Penn State.
Loss.
It's a 5-win team?
Yeah, 5-7.
Okay.
I think that's where in the neighborhood. I mean, it's 5 or 7 or 6-6 for me. Like, that's the neighborhood that they're in.
That's fine. Are they closer to being 5 or are they closer to being?
I think closer to being 5. I think that schedule does not do them any favors.
Okay, so right now they go below
Washington.
Illinois, below Indiana, below Washington.
Yep.
I will put them down a ways. Okay.
Yeah, I don't love them.
Can they be a spoiler?
There's a couple of those games they could certainly win.
So there's 3 in a row where I think you should be cheering.
Iowa, Minnesota, Washington.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all 3 games that they could win. I don't like the way the schedule kind of sets up for them.
But 2 of the 3 are on the road.
Yeah. And I think Iowa's better than they are.
Okay.
So that's where, like, that's the part of the schedule I obviously had the hardest time with. Just because, again, losing 4 in the row is kind of daunting. But two of those are teams I just think are better than them, Iowa and then obviously Oregon, and then 2 of them are on the road. I don't know. Like, I think 1 and 3 is their best case scenario in that stretch.
Okay. So Rutgers is out. They're not going to play spoiler. I only wanted them to bring them to your attention to see if you thought that they could play spoiler.
I don't think so. Like, there's some teams on their schedule I think they could surprise me on. I don't think they can put enough wins together to be a spoiler in the conference for what we're talking about.
Okay. Let's go over to Wisconsin.
The Badgers.
First of all, do you like them at the quarterback spot?
So I watched a lot of Billy Edwards yesterday, and I still don't know what I think, if I'm being totally honest. Like, jury's out. I am hesitant because of the last 2 kind of quarterback experiments with Wisconsin under Luke Fickell. I was all the way out on the Van Dyke thing as soon as he came in.
And clearly, which allowed him to be out on his OC.
Yeah, like I'm really hesitant, and they've got basically him or I think, Danny O'Neal, the other transfer they brought in at the same time. So I don't think they're sold on him either, because I don't know why you bring in 2 transfer quarterbacks at the same time. I get O'Neal's got a couple more years left, but that to me is a little – I don't feel great about that quarterback spot. He makes some throws, but I'm watching a lot of games when he's with Maryland that are either he's making his really good plays in blowouts or against Villanova. Like, that's a lot of the really good throws he's making. So they're down, 31-10 or I can't remember which game that was, but 29-10 against Oregon, and he's making some good plays. It's like, okay, the defense is different at that point when you're down by 3 scores in the fourth quarter. Like, that's a different looking defense than you're going to face for most of the game if you're playing in a close one. So I don't really know what to do with Billy Edwards. I'm not super confident, but I do understand there's a world in which he's good.
Okay. Well, they got 5 games here that I just don't think they can win.
The Wisconsin schedule is really tough.
All right. At home against Miami of Ohio and Miami of Ohio is just like the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, it's the MAC team of the year, I guess, for the Big Ten.
So 2-0.
Yep.
Then inexplicably on the 13th, they're like,
let's
hey,
go to Bama.
It's a huge weekend. It's my brother's birthday. Let's go to Tuscaloosa.
No.
Okay.
You're not getting out of that one alive.
Then you come back with Maryland.
I think they can get Maryland at home.
Okay, so we're thinking 3-1.
Yeah.
Okay. Now they get a critical bye.
But then
they go to Ann Arbor.
Yeah, the wheels are falling off here. I mean, they're going. I mean, I can save you a little.
So at Michigan.
That's a loss.
You're penciling in Iowa and Madison as a loss? Just like
I don't think it's guaranteed, but I think they will lose because I think Iowa's better than they are. But that's the only game in that stretch they can win.
Is it? Where are you putting it?
I'm putting it as a loss.
So clearly, you think you're going to end up thinking Iowa's better than you're giving them credit for.
I think they're going to be – I would be less surprised if Iowa –
Because so far of these opponents, the like opponents, you've given Iowa all three of the swings.
Yep. I think – now –
which is fine because we'll get to them.
I think Iowa, in my mind, before we get to their records –
my mind's
I've got Iowa either 5 or 6 behind Nebraska.
But my body.
So
So Iowa's right there.
Yeah, I think so.
Where's SC?
I'm not an SC believer.
You can't. Yeah, so they have to be out.
I'm not a Maeva guy, and I'm not a Lincoln Riley in the Big Ten guy. So, I've got huge questions about SC.
So should I do SC or UCLA?
I think USC is more talented. I think UCLA is more interesting this year.
And we could do 4.
We can do 4. It's fine. We don't have to limit ourselves. Expand our minds.
Well, that'll have covered everybody in the middle.
Yeah.
Because it's Washington, Indiana, Illinois.
Yeah. I think we should
then we'll do Iowa, UCLA, USC, and Minnesota.
Yeah, I think we should do all 4. So I've got 4 straight losses. I have them losing to at Michigan, Iowa at home, Ohio State at home, and at Oregon. I think they go 0-4 in that stretch.
So if that's the case, you have to think Fickell's in huge trouble.
I do.
Because after they go to Eugene, Washington comes to town,
and I don't know what kind of state they're going to be in. I don't know what mental state they're going to be in at that point. I think I have this as a 50-50, but I think I gave this to Washington.
Now, how about this close?
On their schedule.
And you talk about bizarre world in 2025 college football, because I actually think this is a very difficult closing schedule.
Right.
But listen to the names I'm saying.
I know.
Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota.
2 of them on the road.
So you're in Bloomington. You got Illinois at home.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what'd they beat them, 24-7 last year?
Mm-hmm.
And you're at Minnesota.
Yeah. This is a rough stretch for Wisconsin. That's why when you asked me about the schedule, it surprised me. I didn't realize Wisconsin's schedule was this hard.
But they can play they can be a little spoily.
They can. So games that I think they could win that I'm not sure that they will. So games I think they could win. They could win Iowa at home. That's on the table for sure. They could win with Washington at home. I think they could win at Indiana because I'm not huge on Indiana. I don't think they will.
That's weird.
And then that's probably it. I don't think they win against Illinois or at Minnesota.
You said Indiana was closer to 9 than 8.
I do, but I also think there's a world in which Indiana really comes back to the pack and gets a 7. I think that's on the table. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think that's on the table.
So it's safe to say in the last day and a half, the easiest schedule you've whipped through was Indiana.
Yeah, in terms of who I think. Yeah,
wins losses.
I think so.
The
least amount of resistance. If Indiana had this schedule, I've got them at 5 or 6.
You talking about Wisconsin?
Wisconsin's schedule is a juggernaut.
It's tough.
I don't feel they get Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon. And then they still get Illinois and Iowa.
And you're on the road against Michigan and Oregon.
This is a brutal schedule. I know Nebraska fans think the Big Ten doesn't do us any favors a lot of times. They did not do Luke Fickell any favors. And I do think he's in a lot of trouble because I think the tenor around him.
Wisconsin's win total is 5.5.
And I think I'm probably under. I only see 4 wins that I feel
Miami, Middle Tennessee.
I'm going to say Maryland. And then I don't know. I don't think they lose out after Maryland, but I don't know which game they win. Or 2 games they win. But they'd have to get 3 of them to get the over. I don't see it. I don't see 3 more wins on the schedule. This is a brutal schedule for Wisconsin. And I think here's part of the problem is I think the tenor around Fickell has gotten super sour already coming off of the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's say they go at Michigan, or let's say they get just mollywopped at Alabama, right?
Don't say that word.
Okay. Which word would you prefer?
Not that one.
Okay. Let's say they get
another guy stole that from another one of my guys.
Okay. Let's say they just get absolutely blasted at Alabama.
Foreman should have trademarked it.
Okay. Let's say they just get absolutely lambasted at Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay. Things are going to be pretty uncomfortable for him in Madison. And then let's say again, they go at Michigan, get whooped again. This thing could fall off get off the tracks for them in a hurry. Like by the time you get to Ohio State, they could already be having hot boards and like having discussions about replacements.
And we're starting with a fan base that's clearly not happy right now.
That's
already.
the thing. That's why I started with the tenor of where he starts, right? They're not starting with, hey, we love this guy, we want him to be successful. They're starting with, why'd you change our offense? Why'd you bring up the air raid? Why'd you bring in Phil Longo? Why'd you do this, and this that's been successful
and
for the last 25
years? You never had the Godfather on board.
Yeah, you never had Alvarez Blessed.
Which was divisive from the jump.
Like, this is I know people have brought this up. The Fickell situation is very similar in Madison to the Callahan one at Nebraska. Just where, like, it was never really a guy they seemed to get on board with. Mm-hmm. He came in with a resume that got some people excited, but just the way he went about things felt culturally not a fit in Wisconsin. And even though I still think Luke Fickell's a good coach, and I still think Bill Callahan's a good coach, like, it got a situation that became untenable in a hurry, and I don't know how he recovers it. With this schedule, I don't know how he could, because I think he'd have to win like 9 games this year for them to feel good, and there are not 9 wins on that schedule.
So I thought this was interesting just in researching this deal over the last handful of, because I'm really the only one that know where I wanted this schedule to go, schedule talk to go, so I appreciate you playing along. Here's this is the consensus top 5 toughest games for Wisconsin. Let me know if you think any other team has this in the Big Ten.
Okay.
Alabama, Illinois late in November. You're at Michigan. You're at Oregon, and you have Ohio State at home.
I don't think anybody's close. I don't know anybody. So if you're saying, so a lot of the people we've talked to, right, the top 5 teams in the Big Ten, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and then either Michigan or Illinois has been in the top 5 or 6 for almost everybody, right? The only team they're missing is Penn State.
I know.
Like, that's bonkers. That schedule sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to put it.
I just think it's interesting, and I'm going to land this here in a
second. And I didn't even bring up Bama.
I just think it's interesting how I want to be clear here, but the last 3 games on their schedule are tough.
Yes.
And none of them are traditional Big Ten powers.
Yep.
So I'd like to reiterate to you, if Nebraska does what you want them to do, it will clearly have been job well done, good and faithful servant. It will not be easy, but we talk about it very casually about the jump we want Nebraska to take.
So they're certainly not going
to. I'm building the case, but I'm certainly high on Nebraska. I think I'm maybe building the case, and I don't know where this is going to go as I really carve into the next 4 team schedules. Am I building the case for something that is really, 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 really good that we better stop and be able to appreciate and not take for granted? Or is it this built-in grace because of the degree of difficulty?
Yeah.
That's what I don't know until I get ready to land this plane.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things at play here if we're moving it to Nebraska.
You already have to be feeling that this is going to be it's a heck of an accomplishment.
Yeah.
But we believe it's going to get done.
I think they're very capable of it.
Yeah.
That's where I land, right? Like, I understand that this is a huge lift for them. Like, they're climbing a mountain here. What I continue to look at is, do I like the way they've built things better than,
I think I'm building the case. We ought to, if they pull this off, we better be pretty appreciative.
Yeah, 100%. Right? Like, this is not an easy task as we look at.
It's this a good lift.
As we look at, some of the teams that either Nebraska doesn't play, and then we'll get into the ones they do play. But
did you read Tony?
No, what do you say?
He said the Wisconsin breakdown just gets worse every time I look at their schedule.
It's so bad.
It's daunting.
That schedule's they could be significantly better this year and not win any more games.
It's daunting.
Like, that's a brutal schedule. They're like, but even with their daunting schedule, like, Nebraska's isn't easy. I think it's more manageable than that.
Yeah.
Depending on who ends up being good, right? We don't totally know because, Indiana last year looked like it would be a win before the year, and then it turned into Indiana, right? That's playoff team out of nowhere.
Although we're misremembering.
You were paused, and you're like, hey, Cignetti's good.
That was always the tricky game for me of the first handful.
But nobody thought they were a playoff team.
Correct.
Right? Like, they more challenging than we expect Indiana to be, sure. Not a playoff team, right? So, and even in the moment, nobody thought they were going to get a boat race like they did. So you always have that outlier. I don't really know until I see Illinois this year. Like, I am really interested to see how the weight of their history kind of lays on this team, just because they really do struggle with success. So I'm really interested to see that. But if I'm talking about the way Nebraska's built, both culturally and roster-wise, I will take my chances on a heavy lift.
Do you trust me building the rankings backwards already? Do you want me to slot Purdue, Wisconsin, Rutgers as 18, 17, 16?
Yeah, that's fine.
You don't know Northwestern. There's a couple of little outliers in there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on who the bottom teams are. I don't know what order.
The bottom four?
Yeah.
Because you would put Northwestern in there?
Yeah, I'd put Northwestern in the bottom four. I might. So you said Purdue, Wisconsin.
You only have Rutgers at 5 wins right now.
Northwestern, Rutgers. I would maybe throw Maryland in that conversation as well. So bottom 5, I feel good about. I don't know what order, but I feel like that's the bottom 5 of the league.
Yeah, so 12 through 6 is pretty thick.
Yeah.
I would say 4.
I would say 4 through 12 is pretty thick.
So that's one thing that's come out of this.
Yeah. I don't think there's
I'm less locked in to one. I'm less locked in 1 through 5.
Yeah.
Than when I started.
I'm very locked in 1 through 3. Like, I think that's a no-brainer.
I'm less locked in.
After 3, I think all hand. Like, I think it would be useful to do this. How many teams do you think can finish 4th? I'll go through the list.
Hang on.
I'll go through. You say yes or no. Okay?
Yeah.
Indiana, can they finish 4th?
Yes.
Illinois, can they finish 4th?
Yes.
Iowa, can they finish 4th?
Yes.
Michigan?
Yes.
Minnesota?
Yes.
Rutgers?
No.
USC?
Yes.
Washington?
No.
Michigan State?
No.
Nebraska?
Yes.
UCLA?
No.
And then I'm assuming no on Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland, Purdue.
Correct.
Is that 7 teams.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's a ton of teams that can finish 4th.
That's about right.
Because 4th place in the Big Ten is going to have a really good shot at being in the playoff.
Okay. But I do this. Okay. Yes.
But that's what I mean. That's crazy.
But here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
If you're going to go the AQ route with the play-in with the 5th and 6th place team, which in essence is in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You only have to get to 6.
I know, but that's next year, not this year.
I understand that.
Right.
But that's your year.
Yeah, no, I know.
That's the year you're calling.
100%, yeah. If they get into 6th place by next year, I feel like I am right.
Well, you will be.
Yeah. Assuming that the proposal goes through.
Which would be incredible.
Yeah, because I call it like 3 years out.
And you got some grace because of the number of participants, but still.
Yeah.
You were saying that about a 4-win team that didn't look very good.
Yeah. So you know what it is? I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, because I was trying to figure out what it was that just has me so bought in on Rule.
Hey, tell these guys what you said yesterday when I said, "Hey, this is a tough exercise.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. It's only on paper. We're only using words, and you somehow and you cut me off. You go, I'm still going to find a way to get Nebraska to 4th.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't do it out of spite. Just be as diligent as we are with these records. I'm just telling you.
I said that not because I'm just being, defiant or whatever. It's because I actually think Nebraska is the 4th best team in the Big Ten. Like, I actually believe that. So maybe the records will work out and I'll have them at 5th instead of 4th, just depending on how it all plays out. But I sit here and I go, okay.
Because you're not leaving yourself much wiggle room.
I understand that.
Right? Like this.
I don't want any wiggle room. I don't want any wiggle room.
Like, this is pretty. You start doing this is tough.
If I'm wrong, I will eat it. Like, if I'm wrong, I will be 100%
So
wrong.
at no point right now are you thinking, man, how am I going to get these guys to 4th?
No. I think this is a really good football team. I think it's going to be a really good football team. And
I like the confidence.
Here's part of the thing, right? A lot of it is personnel. I really like the personnel. I don't know if people think I'm doing a bit with the defensive line or anything. I love this defensive line group. They have enough guys that I really, really like their skill sets, and I'm positive they're going to figure it out.
Hang on, Ken. How do you get Rutgers to 8? And I like Rutgers. I don't even know if I could get Rutgers to 8. Let me go back. How do we get Rutgers to 8?
All right, let's go back to the schedule.
Okay, Ohio, all right, we got them 3-0. If you have them beating Iowa at home, they're 4-0.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a reach.
No, that's on the table. I said that was on the table.
Okay. Yeah. So let's give Ken that one.
Okay. But then you go at Minnesota. I don't think they beat Iowa and Minnesota, but maybe that's just me.
Let's say they win one of two on the road. You either win in Minneapolis or you win in Seattle.
So you're 5-1.
Okay.
Lose to Oregon.
Purdue gives you 6. Maryland gives you 7.
You're not getting 8. Penn State, at Ohio State, at Illinois. You're not getting
unless they sweep Minnesota and Washington.
I find it hard to believe they're going to sweep Iowa, Minnesota, and Washington.
But I don't have to squint to get to 7.
I have to squint a little. I can get you to 7. Yes, to 7.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say 8 in my head. I jumped ahead. I don't have to squint to get a 7. I have to squint pretty hard to get to 8.
Huh. That's weird that's the one he picked at.
Listen, I mean, part of this.
But I do kind of see it.
Part of this is a Kaliak-Banis thing for me. Like, I don't think you're winning 8 wins with that. I don't think you're in 8 wins with that guy at quarterback.
I'm just telling you, with what he's going to be asked to do in that offense, it's not a reach. He doesn't have to take the cape off.
No, he doesn't. But you have to be a little bit more dynamic offensively to get to 8 wins. And I don't think they are. Like, they have to replace a really good running back.
So, okay. You were kind of him-hawing around about Illinois. What if they cough that one up on the road?
I don't think they're going to cough that one up on the road for Illinois, personally.
I mean, it's in Champaign. I meant for them to win it
for
on
Rutgers
the road.
On the road. Yeah, I'm more hem-hawing about Illinois as a top 4 team, not about being better than Rutgers.
Yeah, so I'm just getting the sense you didn't really love Illinois last year because they're bringing back 18 starters, and I hear status quo.
Yeah, I think they're going to be about the same as last year.
Okay.
I don't think there's a leap. Like, I think they sort of maximized the roster last year. I thought they did a really good job with that. And I think Brett Bielema was a really good coach. I like what he's doing in Illinois. But if I'm weighing everything, I think, like, sometimes status quo isn't positive.
But you have Illinois ahead of Indiana.
Yeah, because I think Indiana's going to fall back to the pack a little bit. Indiana overachieved last year.
I thought they maximized. I don't think you can overachieve.
Fair. I do think
football is not.
I think sustainability-wise, what Indiana did last year is harder to replicate. So I've got them falling back to the pack a little bit. I also do think, and I brought this up yesterday with Rourke and the skill set between Rourke and Mendoza. I think Rourke, despite not being as overall talented, probably had a perfect skill set for what they needed from Indiana in that offense. Mendoza, bigger arm, can make some different throws. I don't think he's got the consistent precision. Like this, I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, Phillip Rivers probably had more arm talent than Drew Brees, right?
About the same, but yeah.
Drew Brees, more accurate precision than Phillip Rivers.
Correct.
So, like, Drew Brees would do better in a Curt Cignetti offense than I think Phillip Rivers would, even though Phillip Rivers, you could argue.
That's a weird analogy because Rivers isn't somebody I would consider with above average arm talent.
I was just trying to find it. I don't know. I was trying not to, like, make it a huge separation.
Oh, something close.
Between the two guys.
Okay.
Because I don't want to make it seem like Rourke is some bum off the street, and I don't want to make it seem like Mendoza is.
How about Purdy and Cousins?
Do you love the arm talent on either?
No, but I'm trying to keep it similar, and I think one is.
I think there might be a little. So I view Purdy and Cousins as more similar than I view Mendoza and Rourke. I would maybe go.
You know who's. How about Tua?
I'd say Purdy and Tua. Because I think Tua's got a little better arm talent than Purdy.
Oh.
But Purdy is...
But not elite.
No, not elite. But better arm talent than Purdy. Obviously, he got picked first overall for a reason. And But I think
can't use Favre TK because he's an elite arm talent.
I think Purdy's particular skill set is uniquely fitted to Shanahan and what he wants him to do. I think Rourke's.
That's like the Bo Nix argument that there's a handful of coaches that he could thrive with, and
Yes.
Peyton is one of them.
Yeah. Same thing with Drew Brees, right? Like Peyton,
It's kind of the reason I don't love Denver. I think Nix has a ceiling.
I agree.
But I think you'd say the same thing about. No, you probably wouldn't, because I watched a lot of. There's 3 things I did yesterday. For whatever the reason, I went down the North Carolina rabbit hole and watched John Sunvold and Steve Stepanovich put it on North Carolina early in the season when Carolina was trying to replace Worthy and Jimmy Black. Jordan was a sophomore. And I showed Caleb why I hate Penn State. We watched 82
Penn State, Nebraska
on YouTube.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know what it was, but Purdue was on the videos down below. Drew Brees was always really good.
Yeah.
We talk about Drew Brees like he's this.
No, he was phenomenal.
He was really good.
But I do think he's a guy that needed to be in a system that took advantage of his particular skill set. Which Taylor was in.
DJ, I do
Purdue.
like the golf thing, but Stafford's still an elite arm talent.
So Goff against Purdy might be a better argument.
That's a good. I like
Goff
that.
versus Purdy's a really
I'll
good
take
argument.
that one because Goff is amazingly accurate.
Yeah,
and he doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, so Goff would be more of a Rourke in this situation.
Yeah. I think Goff is the Rourke.
Yeah, that's fine. So who's the Mendoza then in that situation?
Yeah, it probably needs to be a little more talented than Purdy.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could, if you want to go on a higher scale.
I do like the Goff thing because.
If you want to go on a higher scale, Goff
isn't a guy. Goff isn't a guy where you just watch him go do his thing.
And you're like, wow.
And you're like, ooh, I want that guy.
Yeah, no, but he's really good.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have, I think that's what.
I still think that's Cousins, but I'm going to get off of that.
I do think there's a reason McVay felt frustrated by Goff.
Because ceiling guy.
He couldn't do some of the things.
And Detroit did just the opposite. They built around him.
Yeah, instead of being like, hey, I want a guy that can do X, Y, Z. They're like, hey, our guy can do A, B, C. Let's do that. And McVay was like, I need a guy that can do X, Y, Z. So we went and got that guy. Right? So maybe Stafford and Goff are the right comparison because Stafford, although he's an elite talent, right? He's an elite arm talent, one of the better we've seen. And Goff is like, so the gap's probably a little bit bigger, but that's a pretty good comparison. Like Mendoza probably opened some things up for Cignetti that didn't exist before.
Caden, I agree.
What do you say?
Orton was good too.
Yeah, Orton's a good. Yeah, like
he was good at.
Yeah. Tiller had a nice run.
Yeah, Tiller
had a really nice run. Because there was a couple guys in there.
I guess so my takeaway from this is you're freely saying, and I don't want to make this just about Indiana, but Indiana is one of the teams they have to jump.
Yeah.
You're freely saying Mendoza's,
I think, more talented.
You'd pick him first. And you saying
independent of system.
And you're saying you trust Cignetti, but you're giving the advantage to Rourke and Cignetti because of
the fit. Like independent of system, if I'm at a combine.
But you're getting the same coach.
Right, but it's different. Skill sets are different. That's why I said fit, right? If I'm at a combine and haven't hired my offensive coordinator yet, and I go, okay, this guy, I'm watching Mendoza and I'm watching Rourke. Mendoza probably jumps off the page more to me.
How come you don't like Altmaier more?
I do like Altmaier in his system really well. I just think that Illinois is probably going to be about who they were last year. I don't see the jump. Maybe I'm just being ignorant or stubborn. I don't know. I don't see the jump for Illinois.
I mean, I clearly thought about this I think you're probably closer to being right than not.
I just don't see the jump.
I'm not gonna.
Like if I think they were good
and Vegas agrees with us,
and they maximized a lot last year, then where do I think they have to go if they're bringing back almost the entire same team? Is it just the experience that makes them from a 9-win team that could have been a 7-win team? And I'm not taking anything away from the close losses or the close wins because you have to earn those, but could have been a 7-win team. Do I think they're closer to still being that 9-win team with that extra year of experience, or do I think they're going to take a leap? I don't see anything that Illinois did that I say, yes, they're definitely taking a leap.
Okay.
I think the leap was last year. Now I think it's status quo.
Okay, so for tomorrow.
Mhm.
All right, we got, what is today, Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah.
This is going to be nice. So you have Illinois slightly ahead of Indiana, Indiana slightly ahead of Washington. If we said all three teams can't win 8, you said Washington is closer to 5 than they are to 8. Indiana's closer to 9 than they are to 8, and Illinois is closer to 9 than they are to 8. Okay.
I think both.
So those teams are going to be somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
So we still have to do UCLA. These are all now Nebraska opponents. We have UCLA, USC, Minnesota, Iowa. Blind resume. Rank them.
UCLA, USC, Minnesota, Iowa.
Yep. How do you think you're gonna come out
in terms of where they're going to be in the standings?
Yep.
I probably have Iowa first.
Then SC.
I think then SC.
Then Minnesota. Then UCLA.
I think so, but UCLA, I don't know what to do with.
Okay.
Because if Nico's good, I like a lot of the toughness and the other things the way they played last year.
Look, this is kind of a cheetah head.
Yeah.
Are there any of these 4 teams you're for sure certain after you go through the schedule you'd put behind Nebraska?
No.
You got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Well, so it depends on what you mean by behind Nebraska.
Like finishing lower.
Well,
probably UCLA is your prime
UCLA
candidate.
is the one that I was most likely to say. I think USC finishes below Nebraska. I mean, obviously, I think all of them finish below Nebraska because I think Nebraska's 4th. But the teams that I think are most likely to pass Nebraska, or if I'm wrong, are either Iowa or USC.
So Nebraska still has another 4 slots to jump to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, but that's better than the 12 or whatever we were looking at from last year's standings.
Yeah,
right. Like, I think the teams that Nebraska...
That's going to be fascinating.
I think the teams that Nebraska is going to have...
And it was a jumbled mess.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a jumbled mess again.
You had 4 teams that won 3 conference games.
Yeah. And then you had how many more that won
between
you had
4
3
that won 4. You had 3 that won 4. And you had 2 that won 5. You had 2 that won 6.
So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of your teams were between 3 and 5 conference wins.
Yep. That is 100% accurate.
Right? Nebraska, and the 2 teams that had 6, Nebraska arguably should have beat both of them. They had it in the palm of their hands.
Well, that was Illinois and Iowa.
Yeah, they had it in the palm of their hands to win both of those games.
Good point.
And they didn't.
Good point.
Right? So I look at this, I go, those are winnable.
Okay.
Right? Like, I don't see anybody as far ahead Nebraska as outside of the top 3. I don't see anybody in this league as light years ahead of Nebraska. That's why when we're talking about passing them, I'm not looking at it as a racetrack where I'm going, okay, I got to, we just watched the Preakness.
Well, that's why we're doing this exercise, though, because a lot of this isn't head-to-head.
Yeah, but it is a jumbled mess, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be the exact same jumbled mess that we had last year.
I agree there, though. But that's why I think going through the schedule of the non-controllables, the teams that they don't play, matter. Because somebody has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You can't just mythically say, they're going to be 5th.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
How does that shake out?
They got to jump 5 spots.
Yeah, absolutely. I sit there and I go, okay, if I'm assuming we're going to have the same jumbled mess as we did last year after the top 3, which I think is true, then what does that look like? And I don't think it's crazy because let's just say, and I know if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, whatever, we all have a happy Christmas. So if
you're dang right.
I don't think it's crazy.
Why you use Nebraska?
I don't think it's crazy just to look here and go, okay, if Iowa and Illinois flip, right? Those games are in the palm of Nebraska's hand, right? They had it for the taking. They let it go.
Yeah, that just makes Nebraska 5-4, though.
It does make it 5-4. But, okay, if we're looking at them as 5-4 last year, then nobody's pushing back at me at all on what I'm saying this year. Right?
Oh, I get it.
You know what I mean? So it's not – I don't think it's a stretch.
Because 5-4 puts them in the tiebreaker with Minnesota.
Yeah, and Michigan. They're right in that pack. And then all of a sudden they'd actually be in a tiebreaker with Minnesota, Michigan, Iowa, and Illinois because they'd also be 5-4.
And you'd win
and you'd have those head-to-heads over Iowa and Illinois. So I'm sitting here looking, I'm like, it's really – when I look at it that way, I'm like, it's really not that much of a stretch. Now – the stretch that I think we're all dealing with mentally, maybe not you, but I think as a fan base, is nothing's gone right for 20 years.
Right.
Right? But I also know, and I'm doing the same thing with Illinois here. Until it's no longer true, you kind of assume.
How much of this has to do with the fact that you think like a team like Illinois is closer to their ceiling than Nebraska is?
100%. That's exactly right.
Okay.
I think Nebraska's not. Last year, I didn't think Nebraska was anywhere close to their ceiling. That should have been a 9-win team last year. I'll die on that hill. That's a 9-win team I watched last year. The team that just
you know the funny thing. You know why I'm laughing?
Because I'm right.
How I was going to say it is because I think the exact same thing.
Yeah. I think Rule thinks the same thing.
Like that's how I'm gonna make the case. Like what we're kind of like. That's how we're gonna make the case.
Yeah, and I think
which is why I think it was important to shake the bowl game curse.
I was just gonna say that,
and let this team be themselves.
Now that you just got that weight off your shoulders, you don't get to 5-1, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh God, we got to win one more game.
I'm in agreement.
I think it's gonna be so. What we saw happen with Indiana was the exact opposite thing. What we saw happen with Nebraska, where they got a little momentum going and they're like, all right, we can beat anybody. Nebraska got a little momentum going and they're like, oh no, what's going to go wrong now? Now that you've got that off of your shoulders, the bowl game thing, now you're free to go out and have, let's get this thing on a roll a little bit, the way Indiana did or the way Minnesota did back in 2019, where all of a sudden you're just like, okay, this thing's rolling a little bit. Now we're winning those games. Because here's the thing.
He said, if we die, we die.
Like, at some point, the math is going to math, right? At some point, Nebraska is going to return to the mean, and that's a good thing for Nebraska.
After 15 years.
Yes.
Or 10.
At some point, Nebraska is going to progress to the mean. We always talk about regressing to the mean. Nebraska has been under the mean for so long, given their talent level, that they will
and the crazy ways that they've lost games.
Yes, just the bizarre ways they've lost games, right? At some point, that is going to flip. The math is going to math at some point, and I think it's this year and next year because I love the talent on this team. I love the culture on this team. And the thing I was sort of getting at earlier is Coach Rule does things the way that I think matter in terms of winning.
You're talking about sustaining?
Sustaining culture, emphasizing the things that are actually important, staying in the moment, being able to, like we talked about with Coach Ravel this morning, right? One of Jordy Ball's superpowers.
You got to go back and listen to her. Coach, yeah.
One of Jordy Ball's superpowers is staying in the moment. This pitch, this at-bat, this right here. Not, oh, no, we're 5-1. We've got 6 games to win one more, and then you start peeing down your leg a little bit. It's, hey, what's next? What's right in front of me? That's what Coach Rule has built this team to do. And all of a sudden, let's ask our guys, Adam McClintock and Dave Bartu, if the coaching staff is better or worse than last year. Because I know we lost our minds a little bit when it was happening. They like the coaching staff better. They do this for a living.
I said from the jump, you could make the case on paper it's a better staff.
I think they can and would make the case that it's a better staff. Even if you just take Dana Holgerson and Dylan Raiola, I like my chances there, right? But then I've brought up the whole, if John Butler had been hired straight to Nebraska and it was, hey, for some reason we knew that it was down to John Butler and Tony White, how many people are taking John Butler's resume over Tony White's? A lot. Right? How many people are taking Terry Braden's resume over Terrence Knighton's? A lot. How many people are taking Addison Williams' resume? A lot. That guy was a sitting DC. Now he's your defensive backs coach. How many people would be like, oh, by the way, we also just have Phil Snow just out here helping? How many people would take that? Mm-hmm. You're telling me this coaching staff's not better? Yeah, it is. And the roster's better. At some point, Nebraska will progress to the mean. And I think it's this year. That's my case.
We're out here. If this dude had a mic, he would really want to drop it. That I can smell.
Please don't
smug.
drop the mic.
I'm not going to drop the mic, Shane.
You're oozing smugness.
And listen, if I'm wrong, I'm going to have to eat it. I'm going to have to eat it hard because I have not I've not left myself any outs. I don't want any outs.
How are we going to get through Iowa, SC, Minnesota, UCLA?
I don't know. We'll find out.
We may have to break her down.
We might do 2 tomorrow, 2 Friday.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Maybe we break it up.
Let's try to knock out 3 if we can.
All right, we'll see. See what happens.
I'll be ready for all of them because I've been thinking about it.
Been Do a little thinking.
Well, listen. You know me. Like I'm in the solutions business, so
I'm gonna get on.
I'm not just gonna say something like, but I'm gonna tell you how I think we're gonna get there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get into a little deep dive tape on Gronowski. I'm gonna have to.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, SDS.
I know how good they were. I do.
That dude was good.
I also know.
And you know what you're gonna say?
Yeah.
That offensive line was fantastic.
Yeah. I also know that like the Big Ten's gonna be something else.
Yeah.
It just is, right?
I think the biggest thing though with the conferences is the assistants.
Sure.
I mean the talent, sure.
Yeah.
Especially over
I just think week over week, week out. Yeah.
Like it's tough. The adjustments I think that assistants make on the fly in this conference are incredible. You see it every game, and I'm floored. And it's too much sometimes to talk about through a broadcast, but the cat and mouse is fantastic.
It's unbelievable. Our friends over Matrix Analytical will tell you this is the best coached conference in the country.
I already made the case,
and it's not close.
And if you think the SEC has better talent, then how does the Big Ten have such success head to head? And look at the guys that they're getting drafted pretty close.
Has to be coaching. Has to be.
That's how they make it up.
Because there's no argument the SEC recruits better talent on the front end.
Yeah.
But how does it end up flipping on the back end, or at least being close on the back end? It's the coaching. The coaching's better. I don't know. We'll get to some of these teams that are actually on Nebraska's schedule tomorrow and Friday. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. Don't